All your favorite snacks have one thing in common. They taste good. And while you might think that that's all that matters, the people making these foods care a lot more about how it looks. Because if you think it looks good, you'll buy it. And if it looks really good, you're gonna wanna buy it anytime you see it. But for some reason, a whole bunch of these brands have had boring or just plain bad packaging for a long time. So to make these snacks look as good as they taste, I'm back again to fix the world. I'm gonna use your comments from last episode to redesign the packaging on all of these snacks. Let's do it. To kick us off, let's do Oreo. Oreos have had this packaging for a very long time at this point, and while it obviously does the job, I'm kind of just tired of it. I don't love the fonts, the color could be nicer, and you can't even really see the cookie very well. Like, I understand that everybody knows what an Oreo is at this point, but it's still kind of strange to me that they decided to cover it up with the text. So I essentially want to take this packaging and change everything. So let's drop in our mock-up here, just blocking out what's gonna be in what areas. Okay, I think that's a good enough start. Let's actually start getting stuff into here, starting with the most important part, the cookie itself. Now, I want that very specific angle, which might be a little hard to get because we need the rotation of the word to be correct too. See, like, this is almost what we want, but it's just not quite tilted enough. It's not showing the white in the middle, which is clearly a pretty crucial part of their whole brand. And I'm really hoping that we can find one. Ooh, this is like almost perfect. But again, the rotation of the word is off. If this is going on the packaging, it's gotta be straight on, you know? Oh, I wonder if we could make this work somehow though. If we just selected that out. Oh, that really is so close to perfect. Ooh, I might have some trickery I can do though. I'm gonna squish it this way just to fit our shape a little nicer. It's essentially the same size as in the original package, but just being able to see the middle of it is a really big difference. And I'm actually fine with it cutting off at the bottom a little bit, just so it's like the bottom of this circle rather than this circle that's at the bottom of the package. And I'm actually gonna clean up this mask a little bit, just by smoothing out the edges and bringing them inwards so that we don't get that blue on the edge. Then let's get our milk background in there, which I know exists from our cereal box video when we did Captain Crunch. Just like this is perfect. Let's take out that background and put it behind the cookie, of course, and put that somewhere around here. I feel like one of the main goals I'm going for is to make this more fun and just catered towards kids. Maybe not catered towards kids, but just more friendly in general. And before we get too far, let's try to start picking out some new fonts and colors. And since they can have a pretty big impact on each other, I'm gonna drag down this tab so that we can have a nice split screen while staying in the same window, which I'm only able to do because of Opera Browser. Opera One R2 browser just got a huge update with a bunch of super nice features. You just saw one of my favorites with the 2-tab split screen. This way I can do things like make a presentation while also doing research. I can't close out of any of my tabs because they are all very important actually, but with Opera's tab traces, I can easily see which tabs I've visited recently so I don't lose track. And what's even nicer is you can keep these all organized using tab islands. When you open a tab from the site you're on, they're automatically grouped together, so my monkey and banana themed ones get their own tab islands. You can easily collapse them so they're out of the way, but still ready for when you need them. They also have this player that lets you control your music without having to interrupt your flow, and you can move this anywhere you want. You can even choose between 7 music streaming services. You can change the whole theme of your browser in a really cool way, and you even get built-in AI with a simple keyboard shortcut. It can generate images and even recognize them to answer any questions you have about them. Overall, Opera just feels super clean and modern. Go give it a shot at the link in the description. Anyway, let's just start with a nice blue, and we'll make it so that each flavor has its own distinct color on the side there, because when a brand has so many kinds of the same product, which Oreo definitely has a lot of, it would be nice to have different key colors so that you could know which one was which just at a glance. Okay, let's address the fonts. I feel like lowercase might be a little more friendly. Like, this all caps is fine. It's just like very in your face, you know? Yeah, that looks a little more kind. Make that text nice and big. Just a little bend could go a long way. And let's get some effects on there. Yeah, I think the outline should just be a dark blue rather than a black or something like that. Bevel and emboss will be very nice. Don't want it to be too noticeable, but just a little something to make it pop out. I feel like all the letters in Oreo have the potential to be really round like an Oreo. Like, I'm almost trying to make it look like the inside of an Oreo, just the nice, creamy, like, yummy. Maybe we do a very subtle gradient, just a little something to give it even more depth. Now, I actually want to do a different method with the stroke. I know I said I didn't want to do black, but like, look at that. That totally looks like it's just an opened up Oreo, but spelling out different letters. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We want to be sure to fill in these little holes. Okay, that fits really nicely. I'm gonna scoot it over a little bit. Anyway, let's move on to the subtext, Milk's favorite cookie. Let's get some similar effects on there, like a smaller drop shadow. This one can be also warped. Oh, we need the little Nabisco sticker stamp, meaning we actually need to have the Oreo text a little lower. Maybe the Oreo text actually does go over the Oreo just a little bit, just so it can be nice and big without going over this shiny part here. So we go Oreo, big, right there. Yeah, okay, that fits perfect. Let me just mess with that shadow a little more, and we'll give that just the slightest bit of a emboss as well. I actually might want to move the cookie over just a little bit. And in this empty space of our extra blue color here, I'm just gonna put a little text clarifying what flavor this is. Of course, just being original, fitting the curve of the cookie itself. Now let's just add a little bit of the subtext, you know, stuff like chocolate sandwich cookies, and we'll space it out like it does in the original, just like that. Ooh, then right in the middle space right here, maybe we use this color again, and we do that 100%. What does that say? 100% cocoa. I gotta look it up. Sustainably sourced cocoa. There we go. But anyway, here is the final result. Overall, I think it's pretty solid. I think it might be better than the original, but I am very clearly biased. Cool. Next on the list, we've got Cheez-Its. For some reason, this is the only picture I can find of their modern packaging. I found this one too, but I think it's an older one because I haven't been seeing this around in stores. Honestly, I think I do like this one better. This one's just got unnecessary busyness. Like, what's this silhouette thing doing? I don't know exactly how big the box is supposed to be. I'm just gonna kind of guess. Let's start by just getting our text in there. Let me fix that color a little bit. That is just like the actual brightest red you can get. And we'll just kind of copy that same drop shadow from the original box. I'll mess with the font later, but let's start by getting a big ol' Cheez-It in here. I want like a straight on photo that's not tilted like this. There's like some photos that are straight on, but they're not the nice product photos like the actual Cheez-It site uses, you know? Maybe I can change the perspective on this a little bit. Okay, good enough for now. So what I'm thinking is we just have the Cheez-It sticking up from the bottom like this. We'll have some text saying original and the baked snack crackers. And again, we just want really nice and blocky letters. I like the way that the Z has these points rather than having the diagonal and then going straight down. I feel like you almost see those more in some futuristic fonts. Ooh, this one's kind of nice. Futura PT Condensed. That looks like almost the exact same font, but it does look a little cleaner, I think. Especially when it's even bolder. I kind of like that. And we'll just do the less bold version for this text. Actually, let me mess with the spacing between the letters a little bit. I want them to be a little closer together like they are in the original. Baked snack crackers, we'll put that to the yellow / orange-ish color. Let me get some little rectangles in there. Really, this is just an updated version. It's not like a total shift from the original, but sometimes that's all you need. Okay, then finally, let's change this original text. It's got to be a little more subdued compared to the big title. Okay. Maybe just space it evenly like that. I think the drop shadow's throwing me off. Or maybe it's just like a stroke. Yeah, that's kind of a good contrast. I want the shadow of the actual Cheez-It to be a little more present. Oh, we need the little Cheez-It in the text. What am I doing? Put it right there-ish and give it that same drop shadow. And last, we'll give it that tiny little hole. I think the original version has little divots in it, but I kind of like it when it's just a square. I'm assuming it's cheddar flavored, right? Maybe we do original cheddar. That might like fit a little nicer, especially if we space it like this, or even just in a straight line. I feel like I'm thinking way too hard about this. I think this just goes to show how much effort is put into these package designs, because what I've done so far really isn't that complicated, but getting it to look clean is taking a lot of thought. Really is. Maybe we need that little real cheese stamp. Like, let's just duplicate this, go a little bigger, Copy some text over, 100% real cheese. And instead of that having the drop shadow, it'll just be the darker color. I want that top one to be a little different font. Something like that isn't bad, but that percent is just so thick. Maybe that is even its own font. That's pretty good. We'll make it a little bigger even. And coming out of it is another shape. That's again our dark color. Then within that, we have this text saying original cheddar. And again, we don't want that to pop out too much. So let's mess with our colors here. Maybe this is a smaller, like, stripe. This is tricky. And then one last little tweak for now is I want to fix this little part of the Z. So I'm going to make this rectangle that's at the same angle as the Z. And with it, we go down like so, matching the thickness and everything. I think that's a good place to stop for now. Again, of course, I'll tweak this more later, get it all nice and tidied up. Here's the final version after I give it all those final little tweaks. I'm especially proud of that new logo, even though it's essentially the same thing as the old one, but I'm happy with it. For our next one, we're doing Pop-Tarts. I don't know if these count as a snack to everyone, but at least to me, they definitely are. Like, these do not fill me up in the slightest. I'm realizing this is very similar to the Cheez-It one we just did, but that's not gonna stop me from saying that this looks boring. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't pop like it should. So in order to emphasize that, I wanna get some like nice motion lines where you can feel the motion just going from the bottom corner to the top. And with that, we'll tilt the Pop-Tart, something like that. Maybe we get a little bite out of it. Get a new font, of course, make it nice and poppy. Then maybe we can have like a little badge saying that it's strawberry or whatever. Now, the problem with this is it might be kind of hard to find a Pop-Tart with that exact posing. We're just not even getting anything close. Actually, that's kind of close. But that bite's too big and uneven. It's got to be super crisp. You can't look at it and think it's kind of gross. It's got to just be a nice, clean bite. So with that information, I'm going to go take my own picture of a Pop-Tart. With these, I absolutely do not have like a studio lighting setup, so this might be kind of tough. And there we go. Now, I don't know what the ideal Pop-Tart looks like. I feel like they don't usually have the frosting going all the way to the edge like that, but I'm just gonna take a picture anyway. So it's time to take the perfect bite out of this. I haven't had a Pop-Tart in a hot minute. Wow. It's not like that good, but just interesting. Cool. Yeah, let's take a picture. Let's just take a little look at these and... Yep, I think that's it. That's the money shot. Do a tiny bit of tweaking, get the color balance right and the saturation and stuff. We want it to just look as appealing as possible while also still being accurate to how it actually looks in real life. And we'll just put that in the corner so you can't see my hand. Yes, perfect. That looks way more realistic than this, which is probably computer generated, let's be real. Anyway, now let's find some fonts. Did we already use Marvin Round? It might be the one for the job. I do like how the letters are kind of overlapping like that, so I might actually have to go one letter at a time. Let's just get a good stroke on each of these. Of course, being more on the blue side rather than red. I think it's fun to kind of alternate these letters like up and down so that they kind of fit together in a fun way. I've never just jumbled letters together like this. Okay, that looks kind of fun. Let me get rid of that sketch we had. That is making things so cluttered. I also never really noticed that circle right there. I feel like it really throws off the balance of that logo. I guess they don't want it to look like a period. That's why they didn't put it down here. But maybe if it's just right here, like that does not look like a period for sure. Maybe it's kind of like the pop is behind and bigger than the tarts. So these goes a little smaller. Maybe we bring some of the letters up just a tiny bit. Yeah. Again, I think it's important to close the gaps. They didn't close these shadow gaps in the original logo, but I think since they're so close to the edges here, we gotta do it. Including these gaps just between the letters. I think it'll look a little cleaner without them. I'm spending a lot of time just tweaking the very individual sizes of these strokes here. I just don't want the letters to intercept each other too bad, while also being very clear what they're saying. Pop-Tarts, Pop-Tarts. Yes, nice. Okay, I really actually do dig that logo. Now let's get some global effects on the whole thing. Stuff like that bevel and emboss. Just a little bit of a way for it to literally pop out. Oh, you know what I'm thinking of? those like anime speed lines. Yeah, that kind of looks fun. Make sure it's kind of all coming from the correct spot. And we'll change the blend mode to something like lighten or screen. Yeah, I think those are a little intense. I'm gonna tone them down just a little bit. I'll even give our little text block a tiny bit of a real shadow just to make sure it stands out even from those lines. We'll get some lines doing this sort of thing, almost like emphasizing the bite. And right here is where we're gonna say the strawberry thing. Very similar to what we did with the Cheez-Its, but just like a little badge. We'll make that match the red from over here. Make it nice and big, almost matching the curve of the bite. And inside there, we'll put a little picture of a strawberry. Give it a little shadow so that it stands out from the red background. Shrink it just like this. So it's kind of in the middle. And right here, we'll just get some text, give that a nice warp to fit the circle, maybe mess with the font again, something a little more plain. And finally, I'll put a little shadow just so that an actual Pop-Tart can stand out as well. Yeah, nice. Pop-Tarts. That goes hard. I didn't even save once. That's crazy. Next up, we got our main man, Orville Redenbacher. This is the most popular popcorn brand in the US, and by far the most iconic. Like, just look at that guy. I remember reading the package on these and thinking it was Orville Redenbacher or Redenbacher or something like that. I clearly was and am still not very good at reading. This is obviously a very illustrated little picture we got here, but this is what he looks like in real life. Just this sweet old man. Look at him go. Apparently he was born in Brazil, Indiana, which, like I'm sure all of you, I did not know existed. He was already in the agriculture business, but in his free time, he'd just be working on perfecting this popcorn recipe. I guess it wasn't so much focused on the recipe as much as the actual strains of corn that he was creating. Apparently, when he was first deciding on how he was actually gonna sell his popcorn, he consulted an advertising agency and spent $13,000, and they just told him to use his name. Like, I get that they probably gave him a lot more advice and helped him with probably branding, like the packaging and stuff, but that's just like crazy, spending that much money, and they're just like, your name's Orville, right? Anyway, apparently he marketed himself so well with that little bow tie and the suspenders and everything that sometimes customers would write to him asking if he was a real person or just an actor. Eventually, he ended up writing a book, and in it he says, I want to make it clear that I am real. Anyway, he seems like a solid dude, and his packaging's pretty good, but if they've been so determined to stick with the name of this guy as the brand, I feel like we gotta emphasize him more. So we just go something like this, get a diagonal rectangle. We'll get some placeholder Orville text in there. Oh, that's so funny. They don't even put like popcorn. They're doing gourmet popping corn, and it's so small. They just expect that you know this guy's name, which is fair, honestly. Anyway, in this bottom third, we'll just get a big bunch of popcorn. We'll make it a little brighter and more saturated to match the original packaging. Then in the top third here, let's just put a big old portrait of Orville. Yeah, okay, here we go. Let's adjust the angle of the rectangle here, just so it's a little more vertical. That's very tilted text, but it's more important that Orville's in here. I want to give him like a nice gradient map. Yeah, okay. That looks pretty clean. I feel like he's got to have some sort of something to him, you know? Maybe a stroke. But if we do another stroke and another stroke and another. Up in the top corner, we can do that little only real ingredients thing. And I'm a little lazy right now, but we're just gonna give it those little spikes. That's fine. You know, this design is kind of goofy. I don't feel too attached to this. So hate to say it, but I think that's gonna be about it for that one. Sorry to do you dirty like that, Orville. But with that, that finally leaves us with our bonus snack. We're bringing in Planters Peanuts with their iconic mascot, Mr. Peanut. This one's just a bonus snack because not a single one of you suggested it, but honestly, peanuts are an underrated snack. They're nice and dense, they got the protein and, I don't know, other nutrients that aren't extremely bad for you like other snacks. Anyway, since this is a bonus snack, we gotta go all out. So I had a lot more of a fun idea for this. We're gonna make essentially this container, but in the shape of Mr. Peanut. I feel like this is really a missed opportunity. Like, Mr. Peanut is so iconic, but when you see this packaging from really far away, you can barely see him on it. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in 2020, Mr. Peanut appeared in a very tragic Super Bowl commercial where he was on a little road trip with friends in the big ol' peanut mobile. They swerved off a cliff, and long story short, he had to sacrifice himself, only for him to be reborn into a baby Mr. Peanut. My guess is that they were trying to capitalize on the popularity of, like, Baby Yoda. See, look at that. They even got little baby costumes. That's so crazy. Let's grab his little face and, oh wow, that actually works really well already. We'll start with just highlighting his face, and we can kind of draw on those shadows. I feel like we still need a way for the peanuts to be seen. We'll just do a big old oval right here. Imagine this is kind of curving around. This is going to be black. Under it, we have a small version of that, but in reality, it goes up. Right here, we do a little curve of white. As you can probably tell, this is his little hat. And inside the hat, it'll be transparent, as if he's holding out his hat and it has all the peanuts inside of it. Not only that, we'll have like little bumps of peanuts and, you know, just imagine that's a bunch of peanuts, I guess. Oh, I know how we can visualize that. Hold on. Let me just grab a big pile of peanuts. And when we put that on top and smaller, we can create clipping mask. There we go. Yeah. I think inside his monocle should also be a little window into the peanuts. Then to make this all look a little more realistic, I'm just gonna add a little shading to this whole thing and a bit more right on those edges where it's crunching in. Maybe blend mode different. Then another layer just for the highlights. There you go, Mr. Peanut in the flesh. You know what this guy looks like to me? The freaking Lenny face. Every time I look at him, I see this. Okay, I think we got some pretty solid fixes for today. Honestly, I am pretty proud of most of these, but I think my favorite's gotta go to Pop-Tarts. Not gonna lie, I was especially proud of how that photo actually turned out, even though it was taken off of this camera in this exact spot. Here's me adding that onto the globe for the tradition. And for next episode, let's move from snacks to drink cans. I already did an episode like this, but I feel like I could do even better now. Leave a comment with how you would fix those or just anything else I should fix, and I might use your idea in the next episode. I see those suggestions easier if you're a channel member. Thank you guys for the support. Let me know which snack was your favorite for today, and subscribe.